Well, hello everybody. My name's Louise Savage. Welcome to Louise Savage Muses, a channel where I muse about books, generally speaking. Welcome back if you're returning, and a very warm welcome if you're visiting the channel for the first time. So it's been a very sparse month in terms of numbers of books that I've read, although I am midway through two that I don't want to report back on yet because I haven't finished either of them, but I'm really enjoying them both. More on those next month. But I've had a very, very enjoyable reading month. I've loved it. So I'm going to report to you today, that sounds very formal, doesn't it? On three books that I have really, really had fun with this month. So the first is a book by Curtis Sittenfeld, American author, The Man of My Dreams. I picked this up at a charity shop. I have a real issue with the fact that a lot of Curtis Sittenfeld's book covers would not normally appeal to me. I'm not a massive reader of romance. The title and the picture here, maybe I would find a little bit off-putting, but having read a few of her novels, you know, obviously I picked it up because I do think she's a stunning writer. And I think if you like sort of Anne Tyler, that kind of thing, I think you would probably enjoy Curtis. I never know whether it's Sittenfeld or Sittenfeld. I'm sure some lovely person out there will be able to put me straight on that one. But anyway, this story, on the surface of it, is really simplistic. You know, this is what she does so deftly, I think. So it's a story about a young girl. At the beginning, she's 14 or thereabouts, and her parents' marriage is completely falling apart. Her father has been abusive. She and her mother and her sister have had to do a flit. And she has been sort of palmed off on her Aunt Elizabeth. And Hannah is flicking through the pages of a magazine, and she's quite fixated on or sharing with her aunt the idea that Julia Roberts is getting married to Kiefer Sutherland. It's 1991. And it sort of really captures the expectations of young women at that age, not just their own, but the expectations that were kind of foisted upon them. And what I love about Hannah's story is that she doesn't settle for that. She's quite an unusual young woman. She doesn't always fit in at all. She finds socializing quite difficult. And the novel sort of shows her bounce from one, well, it takes her a very, very long time to actually have a relationship with a boy. But she then sort of bounces from one relationship to another. And on the surface, these relationships are good ones, you know, relationships that she could sort of settle for, but they're not quite right for her, and she kind of carries on. So I loved that. I loved her kind of single-mindedness, even though it causes her a lot of pain. There's a wonderful relationship with her sister, who's much more conventional, and it kind of highlights how different Hannah is. But maybe Hannah ought to be the norm, not her sister. She has this amazing bizarre cousin called Fig, who is also probably her closest friend. And again, Fig is completely the reverse. She's you know, miss sociable. She tries everything: drink, drugs, sex, you name it. So their friendship's fascinating, and yet it's Hannah who has to rescue Fig from difficult situations. So yeah, I just thought this was a really beautiful portrayal of how difficult it is to find yourself as you're growing up. And hats off to Curtis for pulling it off so stunningly. I think she's a really accomplished writer. There you are, The Man of My Dreams. Then I went back to Kate Mosse. I don't know what it is at the moment. I seem to need, I don't know whether it's because the summer's coming and I'm getting into a holiday mode, but I love a tome. I love her, as you'll know if you've followed this channel. I love historical fiction. Last month I reread, having listened to it on audiobook, The Burning Chambers. I'm just glancing to remind myself of the title. It's up on the shelf there. And this also fitted Savage Reads 2023 reading prompt. Or is it called the Savages reading prompts? I'm not sure, or just Savages, I don't know. You can find it on Storygraph if you're interested in joining us. But the prompt for this month was to read something that was the cover was the colours of the outfits that we were wearing when we recorded the original video in January. And I was wearing a jumper which was striped with sort of cream, this colour, and a very bold pink. So this book, you know, I was really lucky because I really wanted to pick up the sequel to The Burning Chambers. Again, I'd listened to this on audiobook, but I just wanted to really languish in it. And it's the 1570s, and it's the south of France, and it's a royal wedding, and we're back with the wonderful Joubert family. It's Minou Joubert, and they come from their sort of provincial small world. They drag themselves out of it because they've been invited to attend the coronation, and things go incredibly badly wrong within sort of, you know, chapters. And they're lovely short. I love short, pacey chapters at this time of year. Don't ask me why. And the family is thrown into the most awful turmoil because one of their children goes missing. And I had forgotten. I think it's different when you read it on the page, isn't it? But this book, although it on the surface of it, it's a historical romp. And it's an adventure story with lots of wonderful twists and turns and old enemies re-emerging. And, you know, just when you think everything's okay, something else dreadful happens. You know, it's one of those kind of books. So it has you on the edge of your seat. It's a bit like watching a chase scene, you know, for ages in a film. That sort of adrenaline rush is going a lot through the novel. She balances it beautifully with the setting and the sort of the very subtle use of period detail, which is really clever. But what I was trying to get round to saying was that it's the poignancy of the relationships and the way that love is portrayed in these novels that I think is just because it could be really sentimental and saccharine, and it's not. You know, Kate manages to just pull back from that. And the more I read these, the more I appreciate them. I don't go back and reread very often, but for some reason, just the world of these books keeps pulling me back, and it's partly because she writes so powerfully about landscape. Having heard her interviewed, I know that she really absorbs herself in a landscape before she deigns to write about it, and you can really tell. So yeah, I really recommend this, you know, over the summer. If you haven't tackled this trilogy, the third one is out around about now, called The Ghost Ship, and that's pirates, female pirates on the high seas. So, you know, what's not to like? So yeah, a bit of adventure, really recommend for the summer. Now, my final sort of complete read of June 2023 is this novel, Acts of Service by Lillian Fishman, which was sent to me by Europa, the publishers. I love translated fiction, and they do a lot of that, but this is actually an American novel. And I love the cover. Just look at that. It looks like an eye, but then you realise it's a swimming pool, or is it a swimming pool, or is it an eye? I don't know. And also love the colours as well. But this book blew my mind. Sometimes you read books that just get you thinking and sort of start a dialogue in your head. I think if I'd read the blurb for this, I probably wouldn't have bought it. I probably wouldn't have picked it up, because the novel focuses totally unashamedly on sex. So you've got sex all the way through. And the scenes are incredibly intimate and explicit. Just dropped a book. No holes barred at all. So, you know, if you're not, I would never normally read a book like that, you know, that's wall-to-wall sex. In fact, I quite often find it off-putting, because I found myself thinking all the way through, is this just voyeuristic? Is this just pornographic? You know, what's going on here? But the narrative voice is so strong and so plausible. It really, really hooked me in. So the main character, and it's awful, her name has just gone. Eve, that's it. I knew it began with E. I couldn't think what it was. I was going to call her Emma. So the novel opens with Eve is living with her flatmate Fatima, and she is in a very happy, settled relationship with a woman called Romy. So she's come out as LGBT. She's been very comfortable in that world. Her Romy is a doctor. You know, there's a lot in here about social status, about class, which again I think is quite interesting particularly when it comes out of America, and the connection between your sexuality and your sexual behaviour and your class, which I found fascinating. So anyway, so Eve is in this relationship. She's sort of done that thing of left home and found a group of people and joined this LGBT community. She's nailed her colours to the mast, as it were. But there is something that she's just not quite satisfied. She's not quite happy. She's not quite comfortable. So one night she goes into the shower room, the bathroom I think it's in Romy's, in her girlfriend's flat, and takes some nude pictures and posts them online to see what kind of reaction she'll get. And she's really quite pleased because she gets reaction from a woman called Olivia, who she then goes to meet. Now, the complication of the novel, that all happens very, very quickly. The complication of the novel is that Olivia is not there on her own behalf. So Eve is really pleased that this woman's turned up. She's an attractive woman. She's interested in her. But actually, Olivia is there to broker a threesome with this man called Nathan. And Eve is intrigued enough to go and join them. And the novel explores the dynamic of that. Olivia is really passive. She's an observer. She doesn't seem comfortable. And yet she's there very willingly. Eve equally has kind of decided that men aren't for her up until this point, and yet she finds something absolutely irresistible about Nathan. And I think one of the things I really loved about this novel is that the message of it is that we're kind of being steered into looking over our shoulder all the time with regard to our sexuality, and, you know, labelling ourselves this way, that way, the other way. And there seems to be almost a shame culture emerging in enjoying sex for sex sake. Just enjoying the act of sex rather than agonising over, you know, who you're having sex with, why you've chosen that person, blah, blah, blah. I think it's a very brave novel. As I say, I've not read anything quite like it before, and I think it's really clever. It's quite philosophical in its approach. So, yes, I thoroughly enjoyed reading it because it made my brain, you know, some books just make your brain go tick, 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 tick. You know, why is it that this world that I've gone into that I wouldn't normally be bothered about exploring in a novel, why am I finding it so fascinating? And I think a lot of it was to do with the voice of Eve. I think it's really, really very well written. So yeah, thanks for sending me that one, because it's wonderful. I would not have come across it before, and it really did get me thinking. So there we are. They are 3 books that it seems a bit of a meagre sample this month, but I don't know, dribbling now. I don't know why. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. If you've read any of those books, particularly if you've read Acts of Service, I'd be really interested to see what you think of it. It's had a really positive reception. After I'd read it, I read the Guardian review of it, and it confirmed an awful lot of what I'd been thinking. I quite enjoy doing that. I don't like reading reviews before I read books, but after I've read them, particularly if they've made me think, I really love looking at other perspectives. And certainly on the back of here, you know, British Vogue, The Independent, Cosmopolitan are all raving about it. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see what you make of that novel if you've read it. Anyway, there we go. I'm going to shut up now. I've got to go off and practice la-di-da singing with my band shortly, so I need to go and limber up my vocal cords for that. Anyway, lovely to chat to you. Take care, everybody, and speak to you at some point later in the week, I'm guessing. Bye.